Welcome to Southern Sense Talk on Rumble. You are going to love Annie the Radio Chickadee Ubelis and her co-host, C.S. Bennett. You'll find them live here on Fridays from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Date Time. Check out their website at Southern Sense, as in commonsense.net. It's that easy, southernsense.net. So sit back and relax. They're informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey.
Welcome back to another adventure here on Southern Sense. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, Annie the Chickadee, along with my co-host Curtis C.S. Bennett. Curtis, we got a lot to talk about, a lot to do today. It's an exciting day. Oh, we lost your sound, Curtis. You had sound there just a few minutes ago before we went on air, and now you're going again. Oh, Curtis tries to get himself back. We got ourselves some great guests here. We got Steve Goreham, who's coming back. Yep, we got you back, Curtis. Say hello. All right. We have Steve Goreham, who's a researcher and so forth, and he's also the executive director for the Climate Science Coalition of America and policy advisor to the Heartland Institute. He'll be joining us on the first half of the show. On the second half, we have Dr. Salvatore Giorgianni. Dr. Sal is he's a pharmacist and is a senior science advisor at Men's Health Network. And he's also the past chair of the American Public Health Association. We're going to have a lot of fun talking with the two of them between what's going on in the health industry as well as what's going on in climate change, or this new green new BS people try to force on us. But before we get started, wanted to just give some cheers out there. God bless this new administration. The Department of Justice is launching a probe into New York Attorney General Letitia James. She's the one who ran for Attorney General in the state of New York when she was claiming that, was it the house in Maryland was her primary residence? And also she's the one that campaigned saying that she was going to get Donald Trump, put him behind bars. She also had the actions against the NRA. So the DOJ is probing that action, claiming that she may have violated the First and Second Amendment rights of the National Rifle Association. So yeah, finally we got someone going after Letitia James. Also, the feds are investigating her other prosecutions besides to see whether or not they were also lawful or exceeding the reach of the law. So yes, we finally see some action going on here. And also something else going on. We may talk to Dr. Sal about this, but RFK Jr., Robert F. King Jr., who is Trump's administration for the, oh, good Lord, whatever it is, he's the medical czar, whatever you want to call his position, brain fart, I forget what it is. But he said, he's the Health and Human Services Secretary. He announced the cancellation of 22 mRNA vaccines development contracts totaling $500 million. He said he had consultations with experts from the NIH, the National Institute of Health, and the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, that determined the mRNA vaccines widely used during COVID-19 pandemic were less effective against respiratory illnesses due to their susceptibility to mutations. This is what we were screaming about all along when they were demanding we take the jab. And they're finally saying that these vaccines were useless. So thank God these things are happening. Man, oh man, oh man. With that said, people know that we start off each and every show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And today's dedication is going to go out to Police Officer Jeremy R. Labonte. who was shot and killed while responding to a suspicious person reporting at a shopping center in Roswell, Georgia. Officer Labonte arrived at the shopping center when he encountered the subject near the Ace Pickleball Club. The officer approached the subject for questioning, and the man produced a handgun and fired at Officer Labonte multiple times. Officers responding to the 911 calls quickly took the subject into custody. Officer Labonte was taken to a local hospital where he succumbed to his wounds. The suspect was charged with murder, aggravated assault against a police officer, and a weapons charge. He had served with the department for 3 years. He is survived by his wife, parents, 2 sisters, nephew, and grandparents. And here is his dedication.
And we begin tonight with breaking news, tragic news in Roswell, where a police officer has been killed in the line of duty. Police say the suspect is in custody. It started with a call about a suspicious person just after 7 o'clock tonight. We have team coverage beginning with Fox 5's Denise Dillon, who was live at the scene where police confirmed this tragic news just a short time ago. Denise?
Yes, there are about a dozen Roswell police officers out here with the GBI. Now, this is the shopping center on Market Boulevard. And just a short time ago, as you said, Roswell's police chief, James Conroy, released the devastating news that one of his officers was shot and killed while serving the citizens of Roswell. He says officers came to this shopping center right around 7 this evening on a suspicious person call.
Roswell officers were dispatched to the area of Market Boulevard on a call of a suspicious person. The first responding officer encountered the suspect behind the shopping center near here. The suspect almost immediately produced a handgun, shooting and killing the officer.
The officer was shot multiple times. He was rushed to the hospital where he later died from his injuries. Now, according to the chief, other officers were in the area. They found the gunman and arrested him without incident. At this point, the name of the officer has not been released, but of course, our thoughts are with that officer's family as well as the entire Roswell police force. Reporting live, Denise Dillon, Fox 5 News.
Well, it's just such tragic news. Denise, thank you. As Denise mentioned, the officer was rushed to the hospital where he died. Fox 5's Rob D'Arienzo is nearby. Rob, reaction already starting to pour in from around the state tonight.
Hey there, Russ. Good evening to you. Yeah, such an unimaginable tragedy. You can only imagine the emotion and the pain of the law enforcement officers in the hospital behind me trying to comfort their colleagues and this fallen officer's family. Now, a little while ago, we did get up there before the security asked us to get off the premises. It was just a sea of blue lights. We saw Georgia State Patrol, Alpharetta Police, and we do know that medics brought the officer from Market Boulevard, where this first happened, right here to Wellstar North Fulton. Now, just a little while ago, as Denise mentioned, and as you heard in her report, the chief of police in Roswell gave an update, talked about the heroic efforts to try to save that officer's life. Listen.
First responders attempted to provide first aid to the officer. He was transported to an area hospital where he ultimately died as a result of his injuries.
And Russ, as you mentioned, reaction has been pouring in from across the country, across the state. The Governor Brian Kemp, saying tonight, Marty, the girls, and I are praying for the loved ones of a Roswell police officer who was shot and killed in the line of duty. We join them, his fellow Roswell PD, and all law enforcement in mourning the sudden and heartbreaking loss, and we ask all Georgians to join us in keeping them in your thoughts and prayers. We also ask that we remain mindful of the heavy sacrifices law enforcement and their families make to keep all of us safe each and every day. May this courageous man's memory inspire all of us in the days, weeks, and years ahead. And back out here live, we are expecting within a short period of time, we don't know exactly when, but for this officer's remains to be transported from here, possibly to the GBI crime lab for further examination. But again, we have been seeing a lot of police activity coming and going even within the last couple minutes, but we will stay on top of this and bring you the very latest coming up tonight at 11. Back to you guys.
Well, as the governor said, it is heartbreaking. heartbreaking for the entire community. Rob, thanks so much. In fact, the Dunwoody Police Department shared its condolences moments ago, posting this message on X. Our hearts are with the Roswell Police Department and the family of the officer killed in the line of duty today. The Dunwoody Police Department joins them in mourning this tragic loss and asks our community to keep them in your thoughts and prayers. This is still a breaking story. Fox 5 will bring you updates on air, online, and on Good Day Atlanta as we learn more. And we have this web article with all the details.
Tonight, the community honors the legacy of an officer gone way too soon. The funeral is underway right now as we speak for Roswell police officer Jeremy Labonte, who was shot and killed in the line of duty on Friday. Now, earlier today, a procession carried his casket to Roswell United Methodist Church. The streets lined with people coming out to pay their respects despite the rain, despite the weather. 11 Alive's Molly Oak is live outside the church right now. So, Molly, how is Officer Labonte's family, being honored, and how is he being remembered?
This sounds cliche, but Jeremy really was one of the great ones.
A world-class friend and a great human being.
He had a smile that lit up the room.
His presence alone would brighten all of our days and nights.
This wise and wonderful young man. Well, he reminds each of us how precious each day is.
Jeremy will be among those angels, continuing to guard us for all time.
I'm going to end now with a letter that Alyssa has wrote to Jeremy. You were my first love, my only love, and my forever love. You once told me that being a police officer wasn't just a job to you, it was a calling. And you answered that call with courage, integrity, and a heart full of kindness.
Rest easy, Jeremy. We got to watch from here.
Now, during the ceremony, the police chief for the city of Roswell honored Officer Jeremy Labonte with a Purple Heart, and he also honored him with the Medal of Honor, which is the highest award presented by the department. Both of those awards were given to his wife during the ceremony. Reporting live in Roswell, Molly Oak, 11 Alive News.
And our hearts go out to his wife and prayers for his wife as well. Molly, thank you. A private burial will be held for Officer Labonte tomorrow, and you can watch the entire funeral on our 11 Alive Plus app.
Before we play our dedication song by Tiffany, I want to read a proclamation made just this week yesterday by President Donald J. Trump. And it reads, National Purple Heart Day 2025 by the President of the United States, a proclamation. On National Purple Heart Day, we pause in solemn tribute to every American soldier, sailor, Marine, airman, guardian, and Coast Guardman who was wounded or killed defending our birthright of freedom. Today, we renew our resolve to never forget the wounded warriors and martyrs of liberty who have received this distinguished decoration, and we vow to forge a future worthy of their sacrifices. On August 7th, 1782, General George Washington established the Badge of Military Merit, fashioned with a heart-shaped purple cloth to honor the acts of unusual gallantry and extraordinary fidelity and essential service. Today, that award, known as the Purple Heart, recognizes any member of our armed forces wounded or killed in action against an enemy. The Purple Heart is an award neither pursued nor won. Instead, it is bestowed as a symbol of the sacrifices manifested in bloodshed, broken bodies, and perished souls. The modern medallion, a gold heart bearing a likeness of George Washington and adorned with the purple sash, stands as an enduring reminder that our cherished freedom is preserved, often at tremendous cost, by the steadfast courage of those who wear our nation's uniform. In honor of the heroism and safeguard the legacy of every man and woman who has earned this distinguished medal. My administration remains steadfastly committed to pursuing a foreign policy of peace through strength, ending the days of endless foreign wars, and ensuring that the United States military remains the most powerful, most lethal, and most respected in the world. Under my leadership, fewer conflicts will erupt on the fields of battle, but the significance of this declaration will never be diminished. On this observance, the First Lady joins me in honoring all Purple Heart recipients, as well as the resilient and faithful families who support the wounded in recovery and restoration, and those who grieve the fallen. We are eternally indebted to their devotion to duty and sacrifice on behalf of our great nation. Therefore, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by the virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim August 7, 2025, as the National Purple Heart Day. Signed, Donald J. Trump. And with that, I will give you this show dedicated to all the brave men and women who serve in our military and as first responders. We God bless each and every one. And here is Tiffany.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us make room. Let us reimagine, welcoming voices with true compassion. Let's craft a world with hopes and dreams, challenges known, and those still unseen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be sure when all our time has come. We gave them hope. We made them strong. Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah. We led with grace. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation. For all the next generation. Let it be said. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation. For all the next generation.
All right, and we are back. Oh,
Can you
man,
hear me
welcome
now?
back. Yep, can hear you now. Can hear you
Oh,
now loud and clear. Welcome
all
back to
right.
everyone that's watching us here on Southern Sense. We're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Rumble, and Substack, as well as our homepage with the southernsense.net. You can catch us in all these marvelous places. And I really got to say something out to the people out there watching and listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Our last show had over 193,000 hits. Wow. Our
It's awesome.
little show that started just 15 years ago with only a couple hundred people watching, and we have grown to, oh God, almost 200,000 people watching a single episode on X alone. I don't know how to get the stats in all the other places. And YouTube has knocked us off so many times. We're just rebuilding. So I'm barely even paying attention to YouTube, honestly. If it goes up, it goes up. I don't care anymore. We're getting our audience here through X. And thank you, Elon Musk, for unshadow banning us. For a while, we were shadow banned. You know, we would see our posts, but everyone else wasn't seeing them. But now everyone is getting to see our show. And thank you, thank you, thank you, America. And around the world.
Hey, did you know that your cat was in the video there during the dedication?
Yeah.
That was cute.
That cat's name is Puppy, and she's right now giving me these big googly eyes trying to climb back up on my lap. But not right now, Puppy. Oh, man. I don't even know what time it is. Our guest has another 10 minutes before they come in. But I had to do that dedication for the Purple Heart. I think it was very important. The only place I saw anyone mention anything on there was Newsmax. If Fox did, I was not aware of it. I don't think any other station, lamestream media, no one made any other mention of that dedication.
From what I know about the Purple Heart, it originally was just a Purple Heart, and eventually, sometime later, decades later, they added George Washington's image to the Purple Heart.
For a while, it was not being presented. I don't think anyone in World War I or II received it. So for like about more than 100 years, it was just not there. So it was revised. I believe it was. I'm trying to remember the president that revived it. I apologize, but it was around the time. No, General MacArthur is the one that brought it back. So for the longest time, it was not being awarded. So MacArthur's the one who brought it back as the Purple Heart we know today. With that said, if he unmutes his mic, we can bring him on the stage because I see his mic is muted. We'll be happy to have our guest. I can see him, but his mic is muted. So Steve, if you can, unmute your mic. He has his mic still muted, so we can bring him on as soon as he does that for us. I think I had his phone number here somewhere. Maybe I can contact him. Yep, I do. And I don't have my phone with me. Holy cow. Curtis, cover for me because I can't text the guest and tell him to unmute if I can't.
Well, what I want to add to what you
I'll
were
be
saying
right back.
earlier, what you were saying earlier about Letitia James is that there's a picture of her video, really, her staring at the back of Trump's head in the courtroom, and it's just eerie. It's creepy. It's sickening, and I will never forget that. But justice is coming around. It seems like not just to her, but also to Adam Schiff. He has some house issues. So as we can see, there's a lot of corruption in DC. We knew it all along, but it was just hard to prove it because they covered up so much. So I would say that we may see some people being perp walked within the next 6 to 10 months. I don't know, but they have no excuse, about us taking this path because of the fact that they did it with Trump. So they can't sit, cry foul. They had this guy, arrested, mug shot and everything. And hey, it's coming back to haunt them now. So as I say, it's about time. We never seen the Republicans have this kind of fortitude. They had no backbone. And I think Trump has given them cover and have shown them how to fight back and how to stand tall, which is good. And as for crime and everything, especially in DC, I'm all for him taking over DC and getting rid of all these minors who are criminals, killing people.
Well, we got our guest. What happened to him now? I put him on the stage. There we go. Welcome, Steve. We have one of those days. You ever have one of those days? It's like Friday the 13th is over again. Steve?
Can you hear you?
Can you hear us, Steve? We seem to have a problem with our guest. I don't know if he can hear us. Well, we'll keep on going and hopefully Steve will be able to hear us. Well, here we go. He's got his mic on and everything. We can see that. Hello, Steve. If you can join us. He had to come back. I guess he's going to try to sign back in. Yeah.
I was wondering
Adam
if he couldn't even see us.
Yeah, Adam Schiff, who represents the state of California, stated in his mortgage application his primary residence was the state of Maryland. And you cannot represent a state you do not reside in.
That's true. Matter of fact, I think he had both as his main dominion. But these guys, they always inflect on others what they're doing themselves, And like I said, they can't hide anymore because we have the people in place that will go after them. And finally, we make it some justice.
All right. Our guest is trying to log back in again. Hopefully we'll get successful with this one. But there's a lot of things. The DC area, you mentioned about going after that. There was a young kid who was trying to stop a carjacking. And he happened to have been one of those kids working for Doge. And it ended up a crowd of people, kids, age 14, 15, 16, 17, beat the hell out of him. He's lucky he's still alive. But he did his best to stop this carjacking, and he's the one that ends up on the wrong end. And now Trump is saying we're going to increase the law enforcement in Washington, D.C. If he has to federalize it, if that's what it has to be. But the mayor and the law and the police in DC are not doing their job. Let's see if we can get Steve back on. Steve, can you hear us now? I see Steve. Hello. Hi.
Can
Can you hear us, Steve? He's just staring at the camera. Unfortunately, we're not getting him in on the show. And I don't know what's going on. There's a problem on his end. It seems like his camera is frozen. I don't know how to do this, guys. We're just trying to send him a message to let him know that we see him.
Yeah,
We have
it's
him
like
on.
frozen. Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe he
hopefully
needs
he'll
to
look at
say
his phone
something.
and tell him to look at his phone so that he can see the message, because we're not making a connection here. And it's a shame because there's a lot of stuff he wants to talk about that we have been talking about on the show. And again, he signed off, so hopefully he'll come back in.
Well, let me
One
ask you
of
this.
them,
Where's he at? Because it's storming here, so maybe he's undergoing a storm. Is he like
do I have?
in the Florida area? Because we are
I
like
honestly don't know.
a
And
downpour.
we've got a downpour over here, and I'm a couple states away from you.
Wow.
So there is bad weather along the eastern seaboard right now, and we're going to have bad weather all through the weekend. So hopefully we're not going to lose the connection. But one of the things that Steve wanted to talk about, which is really big, the growth of AI, the AI revolution. And with the AI revolution, it takes up tons and tons and tons of energy. You have to have green energy cannot supply it. They get maybe between
Windmills.
10, windmills, solar farms cannot supply the amount of energy that you need for these AI centers. Let's try this one more time, and hopefully we have you, Steve. Hopefully we see him again. And we're talking about AI and the AI farms and how now it's generating a return of natural gas plants. Here in South Carolina, there are now not only natural gas plants, but they're connecting the nuclear plants here. Some of them have to be rebuilt. We started the construction years ago. They stopped it. We all paid for it through our tax dollars. But now with the growth of AI, and we're tracking it here in South Carolina, we're now trying to fire up those nuclear plants to help produce the AI revolution. And Steve, can you hear us? Please say hi.
Yeah, we might have to just go with audio.
It should work even with the audio, because I'm not even seeing him talking. I'm not seeing him talking at all. So okay, let's try this. Okay, I'm just going to ask him to speak up. I don't know if he can even hear us. He's gone again. He's removed himself.
Well, on this platform, can you call in? Just call in?
No, we don't have the ability to do that.
There has to be video.
Yeah,
With the
unfortunately.
audio.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, something's going on his end.
Yeah. It does seem to be a problem on his end. So I'm just going to let him know. I'm going to apologize to people that are watching this, trying to figure out what the heck we're doing. But this is this is the way the world is, because we're not a big news agency like ABC, NBC, MSNBC, and all the CNN. So we don't have that ability. So we're going to try this again, Steve. We'll try it one more time. And hello, Steve. We can see you. We can see you. We want to talk to you.
I am. Hi, Curtis.
Hey,
we
can
got
hear
him
you.
finally. Yeah, it seems it's the end is on your computer. Your computer may have stuff running in the background that slows it down a little bit. So we'll bear with it.
Hello.
But I was talking about. Are you there? All right. Well, we'll continue on. We were talking about these new AI data centers that are being blossoming, and Trump is bringing a bunch of this technology in. So we need the energy to help service these data centers, and green energy is not doing it, is it? Oh, I apologize. This isn't working.
No, it isn't. We have an explosion of data center build-outs in the United States, and I don't know why my internet seems strong.
Well, we got your
But
voice.
We do have your voice, but it's a little broken up. Oh, there is a major storm heading along the eastern seaboard, so I don't know if you're in the path of that. Because I'm looking out my window, and it was just.
And it is
Sound better
booming
now.
and banging here.
Yeah, it's easing up on my end over here. Hopefully on your end too. But these data centers, and everyone's now so reliant on AI. And with that, we need the energy to help them work. And green energy, solar energy, windmills are not enough to do it.
That's correct. Yeah, this came about a couple years ago, November of 2022. ChatGPT released their conversational AI chatbot, as they called it, and they showed that machines can learn the complexities of human language and interaction. And now artificial intelligence is creating text and images, music, videos, and all the big companies, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, are trying to build data centers so they can run artificial intelligence. And it's just a huge thing going on in the country. And you're right, the green advocates want people to use wind and solar, but the big problem is it takes too long to build the systems, takes too long to get transmission out to remote areas. And so the latest thing is BYOP, that's build your own power. Companies are putting up gas plants right next to their AI data centers so they can get the power to run them.
Well, here in South Carolina, we've passed legislation now to help rebuild and do exploration. Because a number of years ago, when I first moved here, over 2 decades ago, they were talking about building the nuclear power plants. So they charged us on an electric bill to build these plants, but they were never completed. And they finally gave us some sort of a miniature little rebate on our power bill, like you would ever see anything rebated. And now they decided we need this energy, and they're starting to restore the nuclear power plants, but they're also opening it up for oil and gas, which is fantastic because the governor here has been attracting new businesses like these AI data centers here into the state of South Carolina.
Yeah, well, it's amazing what's going on. I'll give you an example. Now, Elon Musk's Tesla company is a big solar system and grid scale battery maker, but they just put in what they call the Colossus XAI supercomputer next to Memphis. They built it in 6 months using 200,000 graphics processor units. And to do it, they put in 35 on-site gas turbines. They didn't provide wind or solar. And that's what's going on around the country in many places. They actually didn't even get the licenses, and they were being sued. It took them a while to get the licenses, but they put this all up in 6 months, which you can't do with wind and solar.
No, you can't. And wind and solar only will produce, I think they say, between 10 to maybe 30% of the power they actually need.
Yeah.
And I mean, I crack up. I see people driving these Teslas because they want to be nice and green, but how much energy that was not green was expended to create these vehicles?
A lot of mining, a lot of other things. Another example, this is a huge one in Texas. They're building more than 100 gas-fired power plants, 108 new ones and 17 expansions. Now, Texas is the biggest wind state in the country. It's got more than 15,000 wind turbines. But when they finish these 100 gas plants in the next 3 or 4 years, those plants will put out 3 times the power of all the wind turbines in Texas. So it just gives you an idea of what's going on and how fast these things are going in.
You know, it is amazing that, you know, people say green, 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 but they don't understand that this green energy requires our traditional energy sources to be produced. And you have to strip mine to get the minerals for the batteries that they produce also. And that land is decimated. It is decimated. It's not reclaimed. So you're actually doing more harm to the earth to produce green energy to protect the earth. Is that not the world's biggest oxymoron?
It's pretty crazy. And the other thing, as we've talked about before, wind and solar use 100 times the land on average of a gas or a nuclear or a coal plant, 100 times the land. If it weren't for the fears of man-made global warming, nobody would build these things. They would say they're environmentally unfriendly. Hey, another example, Meta, Facebook, is claiming to build the largest data center in the world, in the Western Hemisphere, in Northeast Louisiana at Richland Parish. And when it's done, it's going to require 3 times as much electricity. Double the amount of electricity as the city of New Orleans. That's the forecast. They're building 3 big gas-fired power plants right on site to power this plant. They're not even using the grid.
Well, from what I was reading on stuff that about this AI, currently it consumes in the United States approximately, I think back as of last year, about 4% of the energy that we produce. But by 2030, we expect it to be 20% or above.
Right, within the next decade at least.
That's a huge leap. And you're talking only 4 years from now, 4.5 years from now.
I think the numbers are like a decade to go up to 20%, but it's very, very big. And it's clear that you can't do it with wind and solar. So in addition to what Mr. Trump is doing to kind of push on wind and solar, we have this AI revolution, and the utilities are rethinking things. They have to. There's no other alternative to get enough power.
Now, here's the question, because I know Trump is also a huge proponent of pushing for building the nuclear power plants, because that is clean burn. It truly is. The waste is the only problem on that one. But also the Navy produces these portable nuclear power plants. Can they be used to supplement these AI data centers?
Well, they can, and some places are doing that. In Michigan, they are restarting the Palisades nuclear plant, which was shut down a couple of years ago. In West Pennsylvania, they're restarting one of the 3 Mile Island plants. It's Westinghouse Electric that is also planning to build a number of nuclear plants in Pennsylvania. President Trump was just there, by the way, at a what they call it, an innovation summit, and he talked about AI and how they're going to build all these plants all over Pennsylvania. But one of the problems with nuclear is it just takes longer. It can take at least 5 years to put a plant in place, maybe 10 years. It's about 4 or 5 times as expensive as a gas plant. They can put up a gas plant in 1 or 2 years. So people like Microsoft and Amazon and all these guys are rushing to put these things in place as fast as they can, trying to get some market share in AI. And so nuclear is going to play a part. Maybe these small nuclear plants will do it, modular nuclear plants, but so far those are really untested technology.
Well, change the subject just a little bit, though, going over to these electric vehicles.
Yeah.
And I have to crack up because my husband has he's a car guy. He used to have his own car lot and car repair business and everything. So he's a real gearhead. So he sees these electric vehicles and he's like, oh, well, look at this. Well, this electric truck can now go 1,000 miles. And I'm going, I'm sorry, honey, I am not parking anything like that on my property or in my garage. I have a friend of mine who lost his house after a hurricane because the neighbor had an electric vehicle in the garage. When it went, it took his house too. People don't understand how dangerous they are, especially if they get into an accident. And don't even talk to me about an electric bicycle. I'm sorry, I'm not going to put something between my legs that's going to burn up on me. I'm not in for that. But we're also seeing now there's shipping companies refusing to transport these vehicles, much less the batteries. Are they as dangerous as I think they are?
It was just announced in July. A big global shipping company called Matson says they are no longer going to transport electric vehicles. And this was after a cargo ship burned up in June It was coming from Asia by kind of a north route near Alaska. It caught fire and burned for 3 weeks. The crew got off, but they couldn't put the fire out. There were 3,000 vehicles on it, and about a third of them were EVs or hybrids. And once those things start to burn, they burn very hot. You just can't put them away. So this ship was the Morning Midas. It sank up there with 3,000 vehicles. They had one in Europe a couple of years ago that did the same thing off the coast of Europe. But anyway, Matson says they're no longer going to transport EVs. So yeah, you got to be careful a little bit with this EV industry.
Well, aren't we also seeing the EV mandates starting to disappear? Because Trump said no more tax credits. And these vehicles are extremely expensive. I think on the cheap end is $60,000. So you can buy a regular gasoline car, used car, for a couple of thousand, which I just did. Or you take your whole life savings and buy an EV.
This is really huge. So a number of things are happening in the EV market from the federal government. First off, the One Big Beautiful Bill has ended the $7,500 EV tax credit for new EV sales. That's effective end of September. And those were lowering the price of EVs. You also won't be able to sell a used EV and get a $4,000 credit. The second big thing that's happened is that both the Congress and President Trump have signed resolutions against state EV mandates. And for many decades now, California in the lead. California got more than 200 waivers under the Clean Air Act. In 1970, the federal government passed the Clean Air Act, and the act stated that the federal government was responsible for air pollution. And that meant anything from cars or trucks or factories. But they also allowed the EPA to grant waivers to states for their own laws. And California's received more than 200 of these in the last 30 years. Well, now Congress and President Trump have struck down these waivers. And so what we have is a situation where all of these states, including South Carolina, 22 states have passed laws saying that by 2035, in the case of South Carolina, or 2040 or 2050, all cars sold in the state must be EVs or must be zero emissions. And that's a pollution law. Those have now been shut down. These states no longer have waivers to do this, and it affects heavy trucks. It affects a lot of things. So really a huge change.
Well, didn't Gavin Newsom just double down on that, especially dealing with trucks?
Well, he's also suing the federal government over this issue. If he wins, he's going to be able to get this restated. But if he doesn't, all of the California laws are gone. And you're right; they had mandates for heavy trucks. All big truck fleets had to have all the new registered vehicles. It was called I forget the name of the law now, but that started in 2024, and all these truck manufacturers were wrestling with problems with range and cost and charging, and what are we going to do? Well, that has now been struck down because these waivers are no longer in place. But let me give you another example. Over the last 5 years, Tesla has received $10 billion in credits from other auto manufacturers. The state of California said if you sell a car in California, a certain percentage of it must be EVs, and you get credits for those EVs. If you don't sell EVs, you have to go buy them. So Tesla was getting all this money from these other manufacturers, $10 billion over 5 or 6 years. That is all going to disappear. So again, just huge, huge changes in the EV market. And by the way, I mentioned South Carolina. Let's see, you passed, I think it was Bill 691 in 2023 that said all motor vehicles manufactured after January 1st, 2035 have to be zero emissions vehicles. So that bill is no longer valid. It won't have a waiver from the EPA.
But I remember recently, because I still run a Tea Party, so I still have my fingers in with I call up my congressman or whatever. They know who I am. But recently, I do believe they removed the state law that required the EV mandate.
Okay.
Yeah. I do believe they just recently did that.
Well, they're all going to fall here.
Yeah, because having lived in the state of New York, you had to have your car inspected every year. Here in South Carolina, there's no inspection. The only thing is the law states that you must maintain your car in good repair and serviceable repair. That's the only thing. There's no inspections. So if you put an EV mandate on there, there's no way to comply with it within the state.
Well, EVs are going to get better, but people should have the right to choose either an EV or not. They shouldn't be forced by the government because the government thinks that if we do this, we'll stop the oceans from rising. That's just modern superstition.
Yeah. Well, the emissions mandate, is definitely now gone. The tax credit is now gone. Now, California said by 2035, all new cars and trucks must be EVs, but that's if he loses, and I do pray he does lose. That's going to be a huge changeover because California lost a lot of business because of the EV mandates. If you remember a few years back at the time of COVID, we had the ports in California with the ships all out there waiting because there were no trucks to go there because California said you have to be an EV truck to enter and transport.
Yeah, they have a lot of problems in California. They do have a lot of EVs, but they're expensive. Charging's expensive. They also have the highest gasoline prices in the country. They have the second highest electricity rates in the country behind Hawaii, double any other Western state, double South Carolina. So the state has made it very, very difficult for the citizens with all these green programs.
Well, the other thing is there's a 2009 endangerment finding on greenhouse gases. What's going on with that?
Yeah, this was just announced recently. Actually, on January 20th, in one of President Trump's first executive orders, he asked that the EPA administrator, the guy who's the head of the EPA, Lee Zeldin, take a look at the endangerment finding. The endangerment finding was a finding by the EPA on December 7th, 2009, which I call a date that will live in infamy. And on that date, they said that greenhouse gas emissions endanger the citizens and businesses of the United States. And that finding has been the basis for many, many laws in states and federal level against greenhouse gas emissions, carbon dioxide and methane primarily. But now Mr. Zeldin says he's going to put forward a rulemaking to knock down that endangerment finding. And that's really the basis of the idea that carbon dioxide is a pollutant, which it's called in the press, which it shouldn't be, and a lot of other problems. So this is a huge change. It's going to be challenged. It's probably going to end up in the Supreme Court. But again, another 180-degree reversal by President Trump on the green and the climate policies.
Well, you just triggered a memory because I think this is one of the first subjects we discussed when you came on the show the first time, because I think they were going, if I remember correctly, they're going after the brick oven pizzerias in New York City with this. Do you remember that?
Yeah. New York City has all kinds of crazy rules. They have a statewide ban on new construction with gas appliances. You can't use propane or natural gas. You have to use electric. That's going into place, I think, by next year. That's going to be very, very expensive for people. But they have all kinds of these laws that they think they're going to affect the climate. It's very unlikely. But you're right. Businesses in New York and probably the restaurants have these issues. By the way, in Berkeley, they passed those laws too about stoves, and the restaurant owners sued the city of Berkeley and eventually won in the Ninth Circuit Court. The Ninth Circuit Court says you can't tell, according to federal law, you can't tell people what appliances to use. So we'll see what happens in New York. But, again, it's just people going off in the wrong direction.
Curtis, you look like you got a question. Oh, Curtis, we lost your sound. Curtis, check your wire. All right, come on, Curtis. Hopefully he'll get himself. He has a headset that plugs that sometimes comes loose on him. It is funny because there are a lot of businesses that were really bothered, not bothered, but they had to stop. They had to stop whatever they were doing because of these new rules. And you talked about the construction. There's so many crazy things under this law that people took and put into place to promote the Green New Deal. that really harmed people, and they don't understand the effect of harming someone. Like, I put in a gas stove, and next thing I know, Biden was saying no more gas stoves. I'm saying, I just did it a month before he made that ruling. So, here I am in my own home, and he's telling me what I could use. But they've done the same thing with light bulbs. To be more green, we lost the incandescent light bulb, which burned longer and burned healthier than we have with these new bulbs they force us to buy. It's crazy.
So true.
Now, that's what Selden said about the endangerment finding. I'm quoting him here. Quote, they created this endangerment finding, and then they're able to put all these regulations on vehicles, on airplanes, on stationary sources to basically regulate out of existence, in many cases, a lot of segments of our economy, and it cost Americans a lot of money. So, Curtis, I should give you a chance to fire in there if you want.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right. I want to go back to the batteries that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
There was a big fire at the Jacksonville International Airport about a month and a half ago. It took down one big section of the parking garage, and they narrowed it down to one car, a Mercedes, but they never said if it was electric. And I think they don't want to let that information out because nobody would use a parking garage if they knew an electric car might go up anytime. It's going to cost them $38 million to replace that parking garage. And that's how dangerous these batteries can be.
I'll have to look that up.
Homes that burned down because of a battery.
I'll have to look that up. I hadn't heard about the Jacksonville fire. I know they had a big one in Incheon, Korea. They had more than 200 vehicles burned up, and they traced it back to an EV that was made in China. And it was just sitting in this parking garage. It wasn't even plugged in charging. It was just sitting there, and it self-ignited. And we've also had back when the Chevy Volts were burning up, there were signs going up in California parking garages saying you're not allowed to park a Volt or a Bolt in this parking garage. So it still is an issue.
I don't know if it was you or maybe Gregory Wrightstone. I was talking about. I think it was Nashville that the police compound had the parking lot had these electric vehicles, and that all went up. They don't understand that these vehicles can spontaneously ignite. You get any moisture in around that vehicle, water and that battery do not marry; they explode.
Or if there's a little damage, and your listeners should consider what is the biggest source of fires in New York City nowadays.
The electric bicycles.
That's right. It's not cooking. It's not heat. It's not smoking. It's electric bicycles, electric scooters. They've had more than 200 fires a year, and people drive them and they're sitting in the basement or the storeroom and they just explode. Or even good bikes, if they get damaged or if you put them on the wrong charger, you can have a problem as well. So. People we have a condo in Virginia Beach and we rent part of the year. I tell my manager, we don't want any electric bikes in there.
Well, listen, tell people how they can find you, because you got a great book out called The Green Breakdown, The Coming Renewable Energy Failure, which people can get up on Amazon. But how can they get a hold of you and learn more?
Yeah, it's a fun book. I'll give them the facts and the information. It's also got 150 color sidebars that are real headlines. Here's one from the Miami New Times. Global warming makes couples cheat, says a dating website. So you now have an excuse with your spouse, right? Climate change made me do it.
I'm going to go outside and light up my fire pit now.
Yeah, they can go to my website, Steve Goreham, GOREHAM.com. They can buy a signed copy. I'll send to them. It's on Amazon as well, of course, and in bookstores.
Well, Steve, thank you. And I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I think maybe the weather may have interfered with the transmission, but it cleared up here and it cleared up so we have to have you back soon.
It's raining here.
You're always welcome.
Glad to join you again, Ann and Curtis. Keep up your great work.
All right,
Steve. God bless. All right, check them out, stevegorham.com. And my camera keeps on going back and forth, back and forth. Every time I move my cursor. I wish that would be fixed. Anyway, let's bring on our next guest. He is a fellow paisano. Hey, my grandmother would say, I know, he a nicer boy. Dr. Sal Giorgianni. Good afternoon, Dr. Sal.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on.
How you doing?
Diane, how
Welcome.
are you?
It is our pleasure, our pleasure. You actually are a pharmacist, but you actually are the senior science advisor to the Men's Health Network. And oh boy, was I coming up with a bunch of stuff to talk to you about. One of them is a recent outbreak in New York City of Legionnaires' disease. Legionnaires' disease. Now, being originally a New Yorker, I remember the original outbreak, which had dealt with the ventilation system, if I remember, and it was primarily in New York City. It seems like it's risen again. Has it shown up anywhere else?
Well, Legionnaires' disease, and the reason was that this was a problem that happened during an annual meeting or a convention of the American Legion, and I believe it was Philadelphia around 1970 something or other, mid-70s. What happened is that this bacteria grew in, and it is a waterborne bacteria. It grew in the air conditioning system on top of the roof at the hotel where they were meeting.
The Bellevue Stratford Hotel.
There you go. Oh, you must be more former military.
I'm from Philly.
You're from Philly,
and he is also a former military. He's a Navy veteran.
Double reason to know.
And a Legionnaire.
And a Legionnaire. Three reasons. My goodness. Yeah, and what is this? Is a bacteria. It's not an uncommon bacteria at all. And generally speaking, it isn't pathologic, doesn't cause a lot of disease. But when it comes into contact with you, when you breathe it in, as you might breathe it in because of air circulating, moisturized air circulating from an air conditioner, or you might be inhaling it or taking it in from food contamination, water contamination, you get sick. You get very, very sick. It mimics norovirus, which is another one of these things, although norovirus is a virus. But it mimics, a lot of non-specific conditions, stomach issues, nausea, vomiting in older individuals or individuals who are immunologically compromised. It can be very serious, just like we see with most microbiologic pathogens. For most people, we fight them off pretty good. Our T cells and B cells and white cells and all the things we learned about in high school biology do their job. But when you're immunologically compromised, you can really get very, very sick, and some people have died from it. So we see these outbreaks every now and then. They are isolated, they are self-limited, and I doubt that you'll see another one like this in New York for quite a long time.
Well, supposedly, I believe it's 1 in 10 people who get Legionnaire's disease will die from it, according to the CDC. I seem to remember some of the things that were going around at that time as for precautions. Can you wear a mask and then be protected from this? Or will that moisture go right through the mask? The mask is then useless.
Well, I'm really not sure. I'd have to look that up. And, I'm been doing this a long time, and I'm perfectly fine saying, I don't know. I'll look it up. Now, there is a big difference between wearing a surgical type mask to protect you from viruses, which are very, 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 very small, and then bacteria, which are, relatively speaking, gigantic compared to a virus. So but there are always these gaps in the mask, but it would be a little unusual, and because this is not the kind of thing where you can predict it's going to happen. These folks, they went into a hotel, just like the folks in Philadelphia. There was another outbreak, a couple outbreaks along the lines from the mid-70s to now. You don't know that it's going to happen. You can go to the local holiday hotel in your area tomorrow and it'll happen. And you just can't protect yourself. So you possibly would get some protection from a adequately worn mask, but you can't go around life wearing a mask all the time.
Well, it was saying, according to the CDC, it said, the health department said the cluster does not involve any building plumbing system, meaning it's safe to drink the water, bathe, shower, cook, and use air conditioners. So yeah, it's good to know that it's out there, and if you could recognize it and get help as soon as it happens.
Well, I hate to take a little issue with the health department who put that up, but the stuff did come from the air conditioner.
Yeah, as I was saying that, I'm going, wait a minute. cooling system, air conditioner, but they probably mean maybe a window unit or whatever. But I don't know if Kimberly had told you, but what I was interested in, I found very interesting, a case study that was done about a set of twins that had their autism reversed. And they're saying that it's a possibility of being able to reverse autism using a lot of holistic methods, therapy, and then doing things such as not buying processed foods, getting stuff more from a local farm, doing home cooking, things like that, and working through different types of therapy, be it physical, occupational, or psychological. And working with these two twins that were at the age of 20 months, by the time they hit 4 years, the autism had begun to reverse. Had you heard about that?
I read briefly about it. I saw a quick thing, and it's not stunning information. Now, autism, without going into a lot of depth here, autism is what we know as a spectral disease. There are high functioning people who have autism, so-called high functional autism. Elon Musk is one. I don't think we'd have too much qualms about the fact that he's pretty darn smart and he can pretty much tackle anything he wants, but he's on the high end of the autistic spectrum. And then, you have the others that are, he's on the low end of the autistic spectrum. And then you have individuals on the high end who have very, very difficult time interacting in a normal way with the external environment. And even internally, they have a difficult time with their internal language, the messages that always go through our heads. I'm always talking to myself. So even, on the other end of the spectrum, folks have trouble with that. So we don't know exactly what all the causes for autism are. You can pin down a few of them. But the vast majority of people with autism can work very well in the world, in the environment. And it is a matter of training. I do believe also that food and nutrition plays a very, very important part in either triggering the genetic coding that is responsible for autism or keeping it tapped down, muted down. There's a branch of science called epigenetics. And again, without going into a lot of complexity here, epigenetics basically means, look, you're born with a whole bunch of really great traits and a whole bunch of really not so great traits. If you live and have a good, healthy, nutritious life, adequate nutrition, appropriate levels of sleep, physically healthy, that sort of thing, you'll keep down the bad things that can happen and allow the better things, the better traits, the good genes, just to be a tiny bit controversial, the good genes to express themselves. So, in the science of epigenetics, what you would look at for this kind of case, and I don't know the specifics of it, but in general terms, what they were doing is exactly the right thing. They recognized a problem early on, which can sometimes be a challenge, believe me, particularly for new parents. And then they started to adjust back to a very healthful, a very conservative lifestyle and nutritional balance. So I'm not surprised. I've seen these things. I know of these things. And I know several cases personal from families and neighbors, and also know some from when I was working and practicing. You can manage these things, but you've got to be diligent.
Well, on this case, these were fraternal twins. So with fraternal twins, you may be born at the same time, but you have different characteristics, different speech patterns, physical abilities. So they both got the autism at the same time, and they were trying to trace it back. And they said these girls were born through in vitro fertilization with a surrogate mother. And these girls were on the surrogate mother's breast milk until they were at 12 months, where they switched to cow's milk. And that's when they began to see the girls to start to change. After that, they went through a series of routine vaccines, which were fine. But until at the age of 14 months, the vaccine they were also given acetaminophen. And that's when they began to see the the changes in sensitivity, digestion, eczema. The other one had problems making eye contact and babbling. They went on to say that they ended up delaying a series of vaccines because of COVID. And after the next round, they saw the worsening of all, including significant language loss. And that's when they began seeking help, which they changed the type of coaching, the type of stressors and sensory around them. They began looking for prevention and comprehensive techniques. And then they started on the diet, eliminating gluten, sugars, artificial colors, processed food. And that's when they focused on organic and fresh homemade. They also went for supplements where they took omega-3 fatty acids, vitamins, and homeopathic remedies. And so because they were young, I believe that's why they were able to reverse it. But the question would be, can we do now some of these to older individuals and maybe lessen some of their symptoms?
It is terribly, terribly complicated, Anne. For some you might, for some you may never be able to move them along on the spectrum. I don't think there's any harm in trying. The scenario you just painted, though, I'm not at all surprised to hear that at about 14 months, that's about when folks start eating things, kids start eating processed foods. And what do we usually give our kids when they're toddlers? We give them those pureed peas and bananas and custard things out of a little old jar that are probably more loaded with chemical processing agents than they are with actual nutrition peas. It's not like taking fresh peas and cooking them and straining them down. It's not at all like that, really. So I'm not at all surprised to hear that around the time that they were probably advancing to semi-solid foods and oatmeals, and which again, at that stage they probably were not on formula alone. They are most likely on semi-solid foods, oatmeals. I mean, the diet that Americans have, I think, and many others believe that they are integrally related to a lot of the unusual medical conditions that we see and the pattern of the conditions occurring in younger and younger populations. So, for example, gastrointestinal cancers, we're seeing them in younger folks, in the 20s and 30s. You never would see them. It was considered a condition of 50s and 60s, if that young.
Yeah.
So, and I do firmly believe that the processed foods, the ultra-processed foods, as they're more technically called, have a significant role in this. So I'm not at all surprised to see that as they advance their diets, and I don't know what these children were eating. I'm sure the parents were being as cautious as they could. As they advanced their diets, they saw changes in their diet and in their metabolic nutrients, and that caused problems. And you can have food allergies are terribly common. So reduce, and some people do believe that for some high-functioning autistic persons, it is related to lactose or gluten or a food allergy. So if you know what it is, but it's very difficult to know, particularly in a 14-year-old, because they're not particularly good communicators. They're not very articulate.
Doctor,
we remember being that age.
Doctor, what are your thoughts on RFK Jr.? Do you think he's on the right track when it comes to vaccines?
Well, I'm not quite sure which track he's on. It could be sort of like Grand Central Station or Penn Station. There are a lot of tracks going on up there. I'm not quite sure which track he's on. And I don't think the man says vaccines are bad. I don't think I've ever heard him say they're bad. I think what I hear him say, because I listen really carefully, that he's skeptical and he wants to see evidence of safety and effectiveness. And I think he has a point there that vaccines are generally approved in a way that's very different than medicines for a lot of very good reasons, and it's just the way things have been for many, many years. So and in fact, his view is evolving, I think, from what he would express personally of skepticism to his view as from a policy perspective. As a matter of fact, just I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, HHS came out with, or CDC came out with recommendations for RSV vaccinations and flu vaccines. And then they are also, if you look at the recommendations on even COVID vaccines, the Pfizer product is quote unquote okay to use in virtually all ages, but one of the other products are not. So I think there are a lot of tracks going on there. I don't believe anybody in the science community within HHS feels vaccines are a priori bad. I do think that there is a nexus of individuals who say, look, the standards we've applied to vaccines, both in terms of testing and developing, is very, very different than the track that we've applied to testing, developing, and improving medicine. So we need, and I don't know, quite frankly, I don't know what the right standard is. And the right standard is not to sit idly by and watch people get sick from conditions you can prevent. So I am a strong proponent of vaccines. This July is, August is Vaccine Awareness Month. We should all be thinking about it. And I know half your audience is saying, oh, not again. I don't want to hear it. But you know, we've used vaccines since I was a kid, you know, when there was a Salk and polio vaccine. And anybody remembers seeing those polio posters as to why you should be vaccinating your kids? They've saved millions and millions, hundreds of millions, some speculate, of lives in the US alone. So I'm a strong proponent. And yes, there are side effects. And yes, there are sometimes definable populations that don't tolerate these very well at all. But then that's why they're prescription. That's why they're not sold like Geritol tablets.
Well, look, I think the question that Curtis was asking was because at the start of the show, I mentioned that RFK slashed a major federal program. What he did was he announced the cancellation of 22 mRNA vaccination development contracts totaling approximately $500 million. And he was saying that in consult with the NIH and FDA, they determined these vaccines widely used during the COVID pandemic were less effective against respiratory viruses due to their ability to mutate.
Well, I do see that report. Thanks for giving context to the question that was being asked. I believe what their concern was, so a couple of points. One, NIH does not, and the federal government does not support all of the research and development for products. They are, generally speaking, the ones who support the very basic science level research. They have not in the past been involved with giving money to commercial entities or even to universities to develop commercial products. It's the basic sciences that they traditionally have funded. When we got to COVID, there was an emergency, a crisis. No one knew which way to look, what to make of it. So the government poured billions into the development of these COVID vaccines. The only company who didn't take any federal funding, by the way, was Pfizer. They funded it all out of pocket, if you will, which was a huge gamble on their part. So I give them a tremendous amount of credit for that. But the industry kind of got used to the government pouring money in to NIH, who also have contracts with commercial entities at the university level. So, you know, him canceling $500 million, and it sounds very odd to say, that isn't a lot of money for medical research. A particular product alone can cost maybe $200 to $300 million to bring to market. So by canceling those federal contracts, that doesn't mean the research stops. I do think it's ill-advised, though, from a public communications and public perception to make a big grand announcement about this, because it once again casts doubt on the effectiveness of mRNA vaccines. And if the goal is to better study them so that we learn how to make the approval more ironclad or give confidence in the approval, why would you do anything to curtail increased study? So here again, that's why I kind of think there's several tracks going on in Secretary Kennedy's mind at once. On the one hand, he said we need to have more data, and on the other hand, he cancels the research and relies on private industry to provide the research funding. The research is not going to stop. It's just not going to stop. mRNA has been around for 20 years.
We had Dr. Malone talking about it in the past. Just to change the subject, because we only have just a few minutes left.
Sure.
One of the things I was cheering about is that President Trump put back the fitness test for youth in school that used to be about 60 years ago. I remember going through it, and then they discontinued it back in 2012 because we see a massive epidemic of obesity where kids are more involved in their smart devices and whatever they're playing with rather than actually going out there and playing and getting fresh air and throwing the ball and running around. So now they're doing a test that had 5 core abilities: a 1-mile run, push-ups or pull-ups, sit-ups, a shuttle run, and a sit and reach. This was originally created in Europe, and we adapted it for our education system, but now he's bringing it back. Is that a good thing for the kids?
Oh, absolutely. This has been around since the Eisenhower era, as you both, as you both may remember. It's lived under various iterations and under various presidents. And what President Obama did in 2012 was he changed the philosophy, the ideologic underpinnings for this. Folks were concerned that, hey, look, we don't want to make Johnny or Jane feel bad that they can't run 100 in X number of seconds. We don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to reestablish the Presidential Fitness Commission so that you can set your own individual goals for health and nutrition and physical fitness. And that it never took hold. It came about in an era of body positivity, body shaming, participation trophies, and it never really took hold. So from 2012 till 2025, really, we didn't have a strong component. So the critics of the fitness test say, well, you're measuring kids against a standard. But boy, don't we do that all the time? We measure everything against a standard: blood pressure, diabetes, temperature, weather. We measure
intellect.
Everything, yeah. So, why not? So having that test out there and knowing your score, I think does something very important to the psychological component, because no matter what you do at the federal or policy level, it's individual responsibility that matters the most. And that begins at home, where parents have to instill responsibility for physical fitness, nutritional fitness, and mental nimbleness at home. So I think it's a great thing that's being done, but it'll unfortunately be like casting seeds at the wayside of the road unless at home, where these behaviors are inculcated and where the kids see role models at home in the community, until we get the folks who are modeling, the kids are modeling after, in shape, it's going to be, they're not going to be very successful.
Well, we need to give kids role models, and that's in single family households where there is no 2 parents, there is no steady role model. Boys need men to look up to. Girls need women to emulate. They need to seek that they have a goal in life and something to reach for. So this fitness test is a goal to reach for, because you can, if you're the top in your state, you get to go to the White House and get a medal. But it's something to strive for, something that is possibly out there for you to do. And if you can succeed here, you can succeed elsewhere too. So I think it's a start.
Well,
as you say, it has to start at home.
They need to get off the video games for one thing and get out there and rip and run like we used to. It got to a point where I was hearing that in gym class, If they didn't want to participate, the coach couldn't make them participate. They sit on the bleachers.
Well, exercise should be fun. You know, if you look at the way we lived in the 1950s, we walked to the houses of worship. We walked to the supermarket. We walked to school, uphill both ways in the snow. We walked, everywhere to grandma and grandpa's house who were close by. But now it's a very different environment. There were no video games. There were maybe 4 television stations.
No electric scooters
in the morning, and then you had to go outside. Otherwise, your day was crummy. So I think you look at how things were in the 50s, where we didn't exercise as a regimen. We exercised doing our daily lives. And that's where I think families, whether a single parent or 2 parents or a foster home or wherever, getting younger folks out there realizing you don't have to go a gym and pay a gym membership to be in good, reasonable health or physical shape.
Go outside, pick up a rake, pick up a broom.
Sure.
Just do something. Start cleaning out the weeds in the garden.
Sure.
I remember doing that.
Instead of going to the supermarket or having the groceries delivered,
You grew
to
it.
the supermarket, walk around for an hour and shop. It's not hard. It's not
Yes,
rocket science.
exactly. I can really, truly appreciate that. It has been fun having you, Dr. Sal Giorgianni. My grandmother would say he's a nicer boy. God bless you, Grandma.
Bless you,
Up
Grandma.
in heaven.
Thank you both for having me on. I appreciate it.
I
Our
appreciate
pleasure.
it. People can find you at the menshealthnetwork.org, where you are a senior advisor over there. God bless you, sir.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too. Enjoy.
Take care.
All right. We had a lot of fun. You're not going to be with us next weekend. I will be here. I'm going to see if I can reach out to Hannah Davis and get her to come back on next week. I thought I was going to have something done, but it got postponed to September. That's okay. But I hope everyone enjoyed our show. And you can find us back here again next Friday, same bat time, same bat station. So until then, I will say good night.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. have loved and lost, and we still believe in God we trust. In the freedom our forefathers granted us, we know it's not too late to save America. Save America. Let's save America. Together we can save America.